Hi friends, and welcome back to Gardening Suburbia. My name is Amanda. I am a suburban gardener who lives in Ohio Zone 6, and I wanted to take you guys along with me for my some of my first slicer tomatoes. I did have to grab a few because the squirrels or a critter decided that they were going to be a snack for them or lunch. And so I had two tomatoes that look like they have some pretty good bites taken out of them. I'm pretty sure these are my vintage wine, but it's very possible that I got them mixed up while planning my garden and also making my little noted guide. So this guy got a big hunk taken out of him. So I have both of these guys. I just kind of grabbed them because I wasn't quite sure if I was going to go and harvest just yet, but I'm going to take the time to harvest because it is supposed to rain any second here. So we're gonna get out there real fast and try to get a basket full. I think my basket is already downstairs. So let's head downstairs into the garden. Yeah, it looks like it could rain any moment here. So let's go ahead and get these tomatoes harvested. I'm gonna grab a good sized basket. The one that I have been eyeballing the most is this Dr. White Cheese Yellow, which almost is an orange color. And I'm pretty sure this is my largest tomato that I have. Look how beautiful that is. And then we have, I'm pretty sure this is my Paul Robinson. So it typically has green shoulders and a purpley red bottom. And then we have tons and tons of tomatoes right in here. So these are more Paul Robinsons. Oh shoot. Got another Paul Robinson. Oh, the rain is coming. Okay. We've got some of our crimson tomatoes. Giant crimson is what those are. A Cherokee purple pole, and then last but not least, a black beauty. And then of course, my dog. And I think this guy's ready. Leave a little more for that. I think this one is ready. Honestly, take this one too, just because of the rain that's coming. Since I'm taking that one, I might as well take this one. There was one other thing that I wanted to harvest while I was out here, and that is this cabbage. It is finally like solid. So I'm just gonna get this guy out of here. This is a Marketmore cabbage. Cabbage is typically grown cooler temps. I'm gonna go ahead and slice this up and put it in my freezer for winter soup. I'm glad I got outside and harvested those tomatoes when I did, because now it is downpouring. So the main reason why I would harvest my tomatoes before a big rain is that those tomatoes, since they are pretty much ripe, the insides, when it rains a ton, the insides will grow so much faster than the skin on the outside that skin will split, which can cause mold and critters to come after it. So getting those harvested today, right before all of this rain, really is ideal. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these guys cored and scored so that I can then pop them into a freezer baggie into my freezer downstairs, so that when I have enough tomatoes, I can go ahead and process all of those tomatoes together. I went ahead and made myself a cup of coffee because I need it so bad. But we're gonna go ahead and start on these tomatoes. I went ahead and washed them and gave them a good clean. The ones that got big old hunks of bite mark, I will cut out. And then I'll cut out any of the scarring. So basically this just happens when the tomato splits. It just grows too fast, or it's a fasciated blossom. So it's typically how you get those really, really large tomatoes, is when there's multiple blooms or blossoms that fuse together when they're starting to form. So some of my tomatoes have some of that scarring. But honestly, I think this one is probably the worst of the worst. Most of the other ones look pretty good. So this is what I was talking about, splitting. So it rained last night. I was a little upset because I was going to go ahead and actually harvest these tomatoes yesterday. But I was just like, one more day. So I do have a little bit of splitting, but this is not too bad. And since I went and harvested these today, they will be fine. So these guys, I will just cut off all of the bad parts, cut the bad parts around, because this half of the tomato is nice and good. Well, this half, I don't really want to share with whatever to eat that. I did go ahead and weigh out my Dr. White Cheese Yellow. This is the one that I'd been eyeballing as my largest tomato of the season so far. I probably could have let it go for a little longer had it not been raining, because it is still a little green on the top. And this is typically like an orangey yellow. But it is a good pound and 1 ounce. So pretty excited about this. The next biggest is my vintage wine. I think this is just under a pound. Yeah. So excited about having some big old honkin' tomatoes. Typically any of like the sauce recipes that I follow, you need at least like a minimum of 30 pounds to do like, what is it, like 6 pints or whatever it is. So getting some more big tomatoes into my freezer to do recipes with is going to be awesome. I also messed up. I started some blackberry jam yesterday. And I'm kind of burning it right now because I'm talking too much. I did not add enough pectin because my recipe was like 1.5. So this was still very soupy after I'd already canned it. So I went ahead and unsealed everything, poured it back into the pot, and I'm bringing the temp back up, sanitizing my jars again. I'm not going to be reusing the lids, these guys. I've heard of people on like Canning Rebel Facebook group or other groups reusing those. I personally am just gonna tough it out. I made a mistake, didn't do enough pectin, didn't make my jam thick enough, it's too soupy. So I'm gonna just use some new lids, which I think I have enough. I'm probably gonna have to be purchasing some more of these guys very soon, which they're kind of pricey right now. So I'm gonna get some stuff done with the jam, and then I'll be back to start processing tomatoes. Okay, so I think I figured it out. I found a blackberry jam recipe online because one was not in my ball canning book that I have, and I wasn't gonna buy a whole new canning book just for the recipe. So I found a recipe online. I figured it's jam. It just needs either lemon juice for an acid, and then lots of sugar, and of course pectin and whatever fruit. So I've been having trouble trying to get this jam to be jammy enough and not soup. And I think whatever recipe I was using did not call for enough pectin. And so I referred to my thing of pectin to see what they recommended. When looking at this, it has for 2 half pints of jam, you would need 1.5 tablespoons of pectin for a traditional regular sugar jam. And that was about how much the recipe online called for, was 1.5 tablespoons for, I think it was 2.5 pounds of blackberries. I had a little over 3 pounds of blackberries, but now I added in, I think I added in another 3 tablespoons, and I had done, I think, almost 2 tablespoons of pectin. And I like a really nice spreadable, pliable jam. I don't like jelly. I'm not a big fan of the big clumpy jelly. I like nice, smooth, kind of glides on the bread. So I think we've got that. Put this plate into the freezer, and it says that the jam is done when you can push it and it wrinkles. You can kind of see the wrinkles, and it's definitely keeping more of a jammy consistency, and it's not just like flooding back into the space where my finger just was. So I think we've got some jam. I need to get my jars out of the canner because I was sterilizing them in there, and get these guys filled, which means I also need my funnel, and I need my jar lifter. That is what I need. I recently purchased a new jar lifter because I had a really cheap one, well, kind of cheap one, and the handles always fall off, but I like this one better because it's thinner where you pick up the jar, whereas the new one that I got that is a lot more heavy duty, you can kind of see that lip where you pick up the jar, and that makes it really hard to really pack my canner full, at least my water bath canner pretty full, and still be able to lift the jars out without like maneuvering around things. So I'm gonna grab the funnel because I need to get this stuff packed in. So I am hot packing my hot jam into hot jars, and they're gonna go into the boiling water to process. Some people say you don't need to do this sterilizing step with the jars. I'm gonna do it because I'm already in here getting this water boiling. And why not add an extra layer of protection? I also do not have a dishwasher, which most people put their canning jars in the dishwasher on like a steam cycle or something to sanitize them. So I don't have that, so this is what I do. The last time I did this, I had the perfect amount of jam to fill all of my jars. But since I had to put this back into my pot, I probably am going to be a little short. So if I'm a little short on one of my jars, I will then just put that jar directly into my fridge to be used right away. one more jar in here too. I'm gonna grab kitchen tools. With some tomatoes. Yay. And jam needs a 1/4 inch of headspace, so that's that space between the top of the jar and where the content sits. All right, so we are short 2 of the initial jars. That means we boiled, condensed, thickened by removing a lot of that water moisture from this jam. So we have about this much extra. I'm gonna use this to top off these guys if I need to. And I'm gonna wipe the rim really nice and well so they have a clean surface to seal with the lids. And then we'll get a fingertip tightness, set these guys in the water bath canner. I'm at that base altitude where I don't need to add thyme or anything like that to my recipes when I water bath can or pressure can. So whatever the recipe states, I just go with that. But make sure that you're checking your altitude and making sure that you're processing any of your canned goods for the correct time for whatever you're canning. So I typically, or I have my altitude written in all of my canning books, just so that I have it there handy. But let me check all these guys. We need to also remove any air bubbles so that everything settles correctly, which I'm gonna grab my little, I think that is in my, it's just all fast. So this is my little canning device, which has, I don't know if you guys can see that, the little heights. So this first little bump right there is where it would be a 1/4 inch. So I'm just gonna go up to that and just make sure, yeah. Most of these guys are good. There's 2 that I need to add a little jam to. Oh my gosh, this is perfect. I'm just going to give these guys a good little stir to remove any of the bubbles. This jam is gonna be so good. I'm so excited. So this one, I am just going to put a lid on. I'm gonna keep it loose. I'm gonna let this sit on my counter and just get down to room temp. And then I'll pop it in my fridge. These guys, I'm gonna wipe the rim with a damp towel, making sure it's nice and clean. You can use vinegar, white vinegar, to get a sanitized rim. I just use water because that's what I have available currently, which I really need to be picking up vinegar because a lot of recipes that I use have vinegar in them. Just making sure that there's no sugar, there is no food or jam on the rim. Occasionally turning over the paper towel so we get a clean surface to work with. Okay. Centering our lids. I've been actually kind of curious. I don't know what canning lids you guys use, but I've been seeing a lot about 4 jars, F-O-R jars. There was another one. I think it was on Justin Rhodes' channel. He went and saw like a canning facility that makes lids. I can't remember what those lids were called. But if you guys have any canning jar lids that you guys really like, and they seem to be really reliable, please leave them down below so that I can check them out. I'm up for anything really. I have bought Ball, and I've also bought, I think it's Kerr, K-E-R-R lids. I honestly haven't noticed any difference. I didn't have one jar last night when I was processing these for the first time. That one didn't seal, but that was not a big deal because I was going to have to redo the recipe anyhow. But if you guys have any recommendations for canning jar lids that you really personally like, please pop them down below in the comments, and I'm honestly be so happy to check them out. So thank you in advance for that. All right, so we've got fingertip tightness. This one is not getting canned because this is going in the fridge. We're just gonna go ahead and drop these guys into the water bath container, which is boiling. So we're gonna pop these in one at a time. All jars are in. They're all covered with water. It's about 2 inches, 1.5 inches of water in there. I'm going to pop my lid on top of this, and once these guys start boiling like fervorously, then I will set my timer for 10 minutes, which is how much I need to process my jam for at my altitude. And then I will turn off the heat, take off the lid, let those sit in the water for about 5 minutes, just to kind of let them chill down a little bit. And then I will pop them back onto my towel here and let them rest until morning, where I'll go ahead and date, label, and then pop them into my pantry. So, yay. This cabbage was absolutely perfect. So I grew one other Copenhagen Market More cabbage this season. Both of these are in my freezer currently, and they're going to be really delicious added into soup, which is one of my favorite soups. I definitely am adding a couple more of these plants into my fall garden for this year, and those seeds have been started and they are currently in my office growing. After about 10 minutes, I did take the lid off of those jam, turned off the heat, and just let those rest for about 5 minutes. So I totally recommend doing honing of your blades. This really just aligns the blade and makes it seem like it's sharper, while it doesn't actually remove any of the excess metal like sharpening does. It really makes the blade last so much longer. So these tomatoes were a breeze to core and score, basically removing the tougher core where the stem attaches to that tomato, and then slicing an X at the bottom. I was trying to show you some roly-polies on the bottom of this tomato, but they were just not working with me. I went ahead and actually removed that portion. If you watch at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you'll watch the roly-polies walk through those holes in the bottom of the tomato that I cut out. They're just living their best life in my tomato, but not going to be going in my sauce. So, tomatoes ready to be put into the bag. This tomato is the one that got bitten by the deer, and so I went ahead and I chopped off the bad portion that the deer had taken a bite out of, cored it, scored it, and then pretty much continue to do this with all of the rest of the tomatoes. Look how many tomatoes we have. All right, guys, so we have all of our tomatoes that I picked today bagged up, 2 giant bags, gallon-sized baggies. They're pretty heavy. I'm going to take these guys and put them in a freezer in my basement until I'm ready to process them. Loki thinks that's a good idea. So far we have 3 bags of tomatoes, 1 bag of tomatillos, a little stash of peppers, and I actually made a little bag of cherry tomatoes we'll figure out soon. Thank you guys so much for joining me today in the little pre-storm tomato harvest. I hope you guys are having a wonderful growing season. Let me know down below if you guys have tomatoes coming in. On a Cincinnati gardening Facebook group, a lot of people are saying that they are just now getting blushing slicing tomatoes and that they've been getting only a handful or so of cherry tomatoes. I'm in zone 6, so I would love to know how your guys' growing season is progressing. Obviously, there are climates that it's a lot hotter. There are climates where it's cold. Let me know what your tomato season is looking like. I'd love to know. Thank you guys so much for joining me. As always, I'll go ahead and pop a video up here for you to enjoy until my next upload. But until then, thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.